Dennis Rader lived two lives, one as a devoted family man and church leader, respected by his peers and loved by his family. He was the kind of neighbor who would lend a helping hand, the man who never missed a Sunday service, and the father who seemed to cherish his children. But beneath this carefully crafted facade, he was Wichita's most feared serial killer, a man whose crimes would haunt the city for decades. To neighbors, he was ordinary, just a husband, father, and city compliance officer, blending seamlessly into the fabric of suburban life. He attended block parties, mowed his lawn, and exchanged pleasantries with those around him. But for 30 years, he hid a monstrous secret, living with the knowledge of his unspeakable acts while maintaining the mask of normalcy. Rader was the BTK Killer, responsible for a reign of terror that haunted Wichita and left families shattered in his wake. He blended in perfectly, shopping at local stores, attending church, and raising his children alongside those of his victims. No one ever suspected that the man sharing a pew or chatting in the grocery aisle was capable of such horror. His greatest weapon was his normalcy. No one suspected the man handing out parking tickets was a predator. He used his position in the community to deflect suspicion and gain trust. For decades, he committed horrific crimes, then vanished back into his routine life, leaving investigators baffled and the city gripped by fear. The police searched for a monster, never realizing he was hiding in plain sight, living among them, and even participating in community safety meetings. Rader's double life was a chilling performance, maintained with discipline and control. He compartmentalized his dark urges, keeping them hidden from everyone he knew. He was a ghost for 30 years, striking and then disappearing for years at a time, always staying one step ahead of the authorities. The city lived in fear, never knowing the killer was among them. Parents kept their children close, and neighbors locked their doors, haunted by the unknown threat. But Rader was always there, watching, waiting, and relishing the secret power he held over an entire city, his true identity hidden in the shadows for 3 decades. Dennis Lynn Rader was born in 1945 in Kansas and grew up in Wichita. Outwardly, his life was typical: Boy Scouts, church, Air Force service, marriage, and children. He worked jobs that gave him access to homes and authority, most notably at ADT Security, where he learned to bypass alarms. Later, as a compliance officer, he enforced city codes, feeding his need for control. Beneath this normal life, Rader nurtured violent fantasies from a young age, obsessed with bondage and domination. He stalked women, collected trophies, and meticulously planned how to turn his fantasies into reality. Rader's crimes were not impulsive. He assembled hit kits and stalked victims for weeks. The man who led church meetings was a predator, hunting with cold precision. His organization and forethought were hallmarks of a serial offender. Rader's true self was BTK, the planner, the stalker, the killer. His mask of normalcy hid a darkness few could imagine. BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill, was the chilling name Dennis Rader chose for himself, a moniker that revealed not just his identity, but the ritualistic and methodical nature of his crimes. Each word in that name was a step in his carefully orchestrated process, a blueprint for terror that he would follow again and again. In 1978, he brazenly sent a letter to a local TV station, openly claiming responsibility for his crimes and even suggesting the infamous name BTK. This was not just a confession, it was a taunt, a way to insert himself into the public consciousness and ensure his legacy of fear. Binding was about total domination. Rader meticulously brought his own ropes, tape, and restraints, ensuring his victims were rendered utterly helpless. He planned every detail, leaving nothing to chance, and took satisfaction in the power he held over his victims. Torture, both physical and psychological, was the heart of his fantasy. He prolonged suffering, manipulating fear and pain to feed his twisted desires. For Rader, the anticipation and terror were as important as the violence itself. He relished the terror he created, drawing out the ordeal for as long as possible, savoring every moment of control and panic. The suffering of his victims was, to him, a performance he directed with chilling intent. Killing, often by strangulation, was the final act, personal, hands-on, and a way to cement his power over life and death. The act itself was intimate, a final assertion of dominance that left no doubt about who was in control. Each crime was a carefully directed performance, a three-act play of horror that he orchestrated from start to finish, reliving the details in his mind long after the act was done. Rader's process was methodical, not impulsive. He spent weeks, sometimes months, stalking his victims, planning every move, and preparing for the moment he would strike. He followed his script with chilling precision, checking off each step as if it were part of a routine, never deviating from the plan he had so meticulously crafted. The BTK ritual was about control, dominance, and fulfilling fantasies he could never satisfy in his public life. Behind the mask of an ordinary man, he hid a monstrous need for power. His crimes left a trail of fear and confusion, shattering the sense of safety in quiet neighborhoods and leaving families haunted by unanswered questions. The city was left to wonder who could be capable of such cruelty and whether the nightmare would ever truly end. On January 15, 1974, Wichita's innocence was shattered in a way no one could have imagined. What began as an ordinary winter morning would soon become one of the darkest days in the city's history. The Otero family, parents Joseph and Julie, along with their two young children, Josephine and Joseph Jr., were found murdered in their modest home. The discovery was both horrifying and deeply personal for the tight-knit community. The brutality stunned police and residents alike. The victims were bound and killed where they should have been safest, inside their own home, surrounded by familiar comforts that suddenly offered no protection. This was BTK's first known crime, meticulously planned after weeks of stalking the family. He watched their routines, learning when they would be most vulnerable. Rader cut the phone line, entered the home, and carried out his ritual with chilling patience and control. He left behind a scene that would haunt investigators for years. The murder of 4 at once, including 2 innocent children, sent shockwaves through the community. The Oteros were well-liked, and their loss was felt by neighbors, friends, and strangers alike. Fear gripped Wichita. Neighbors locked doors and eyed each other with suspicion. Parents kept their children close, and a sense of safety vanished overnight. The case quickly went cold. No witnesses, no motive, no suspect. Detectives were left with more questions than answers, and the city was left with a growing sense of dread. Rader returned to his normal life, blending in with his neighbors, replaying the crime in his mind and savoring the power he felt. The Otero murders set the pattern for BTK's future attacks, targeting people in their homes, using bindings and inflicting terror with calculated precision. He had found his method, and Wichita would pay the price. The city would not know his name for decades, but the fear he created lingered in every shadow, every locked door, and every anxious glance. The Otero case marked the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt Wichita for years to come. Wichita would never be the same. The city's sense of security was gone, replaced by a chilling uncertainty that would last for generations. Rader craved recognition, so he taunted police and media with letters, taking credit for his crimes. In 1978, he sent a letter to KKTV, naming himself BTK and providing details only the killer would know. His communications dripped with arrogance, treating the investigation as a contest he was winning. He included poems, drawings, and chilling details, reliving his crimes through words. Rader's taunts were psychological warfare, designed to instill fear and frustrate investigators. He left misleading clues, playing a long cat-and-mouse game. Periods of silence made police wonder if he was dead or in prison. Then a new letter would appear, reigniting fear. One package included a poem about a victim he failed to attack, proving he was still active. His letters terrorized the city, reminding everyone BTK was still out there. Rader's need for attention was as dangerous as his crimes. After 1991, BTK vanished. No murders, no letters, just silence. Wichita began to relax, thinking the killer was gone or dead. Rader, meanwhile, lived his most public life, family man, church leader, Boy Scout volunteer. His ability to stop killing was rare among serial offenders. He claimed he was too busy with family and work, but his dark urges never disappeared. In secret, he relived his crimes through private rituals, dressing up, binding himself, and using trophies from victims. The long silence lulled police and public into complacency. The case became a cold file, with new investigators inheriting the mystery. For victims' families, the pain and questions never faded. Rader was still there, hiding in plain sight. He waited, feeding his addiction in secret. The monster was only sleeping, not gone. Wichita's nightmare was far from over. In 2004, a newspaper story about the Otero murders reignited Rader's ego. He couldn't stand being forgotten. He resumed contact, sending packages with victims' items and chilling photos. This time, he embraced new technology, asking police if a floppy disk could be traced. Police lied, assuring him it was safe. Rader, overconfident, sent a disk to a TV station. Forensic experts found a deleted Word document on it. The metadata revealed the name Dennis and Christ Lutheran Church. A quick search led police to Dennis Rader, church council president. They confirmed he owned a black Jeep Cherokee seen near a package drop. DNA from his daughter's medical records matched crime scene evidence. After 30 years, the ghost had a name. Rader's arrogance had finally betrayed him. The hunt was over. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested, calm, almost relieved. He confessed in chilling detail, showing no remorse, only pride in his projects. Rader described his double life, the good Dennis and the BTK Killer. He saw his victims as targets, not people, and wanted credit for his crimes. His confession lasted over 30 hours, walking investigators through each murder. Rader's ego was his undoing. He wanted his story told. Kansas law spared him the death penalty. He received 10 life sentences. At sentencing, he apologized, but his words rang hollow. The mask was off, the monster was revealed. Wichita finally had closure, but the scars remained. Rader's pride had cost him everything. The BTK case left a lasting scar on Wichita and changed criminal investigations forever. Rader's ordinary facade forced us to rethink what evil looks like. The case highlighted the power of persistence and evolving technology, solved by digital forensics, not old-fashioned clues. Rader's need for attention led to his capture. His ego was his downfall. Understanding the psychology of such killers can help law enforcement lure them out. The case brought closure to victims, families, and taught vital lessons about vigilance and justice. If you found this story compelling, subscribe for more deep dives into true crime. There's always more to learn.